Ever wondered about wonder? When we were kids, we wondered about everything. Why is the grass green? Why does my heart skip when I am happy? Why is the sky blue? Why do only birds get to fly? Is there a God? And if so, why does God let bad things happen? Why do people die? It's natural for children to ask questions, big and small, but too often adults brush it off and consider it an annoyance, or even scold kids for being too inquisitive, asking too many questions. Well, our guest today is somebody who is not going to let that happen. She is New York Times and USA Today international bestselling author Laura Munson, talking about her new book, The Wild Why: Stories and Teachings to Uncover Your Wonder, from She Writes Press. Laura, hello. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Desiree. Thanks for the good work you do in this world.
Oh, likewise, likewise. The message of your book speaks to me because I have grandchildren, and I know from my own experience, you get all those questions and it can really, it's so easy to be dismissive. And as we grow older, we kind of carry that dismissiveness with us, right? We've all been told to kind of stay in your lane and do as you're told. Can you start with just the big thing? Why? What is wonder? Why do we have it?
Well, to me, wonder is something that's valued when we're very little, and then something that I believe society squelches from us. And it's not just being in a place of curiosity, but it's also being in a place of awe. And I think our society is heavy on curiosity. We can Google things, get the answer pretty quickly, at least, pretty good research we can do on the internet. But what about stopping? What about being in awe? And I've been lucky enough to live in Montana for 30 years and raise kids there. And I am originally from Chicago, so I'm from a city, but I lead writing retreats. And I'm also a speaker and a teacher and an editor and, of course, a writer. And I feel like so many of us say these three things over and over again. And this is why I wrote the book. I'm stuck. This is in the realm of creativity and self-expression. I'm stuck. I don't have a voice, and I'm not creative. And those are all three stories that we learn along the way. You don't see a kid in a sandbox saying those things. I'm stuck. I don't have a voice, and I'm not creative. So I was walking around in the woods one day, and I thought, I'm going to write a book about wonder and how to return to it.
And here you are, having done just that. And it's an amazing book. And we're going to unpack all of that. I want to talk about your writing retreats. I want to talk about creativity. But first, I'm wondering for the average person who's listening going, I don't have woods to go walking around in. I don't have the time to do this. How do you suggest that people in their real everyday busy lives get back to the wonder in their lives?
Well, and we live in such a hustle culture, go, 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 do, do, do. And I'm part of it. I'm a business owner. I've got like 3 different jobs. I get it. I'm on a cross-country book tour right now. I've been all over the United States. And I am hearing from people just how sick and tired we are of this hustle culture. And yeah, we got to pay our bills. We've got stuff to deal with. We can't always stop with our grandchildren or our children and look at the sky and consider the clouds. We've got to get from point A to point B. But that's not to say that we can't make room for our wonder. It's critical. To me, it's not just a silly, frilly idea. Our civilization depends on it. So how do we do it? I'm not a wonderologist. I don't have letters after my name, but I do know that you can find a park bench to sit on. I do know that we can get our noses out of our screens. I've been in so many airports. I've been in the Salt Lake City airport 6 times in the last 2 months. And I've just been taking my own message to task. What would happen if I sat here and actually watched the kids running around or just looked out the window? It's better for our blood pressure. It's better for our psyche, and it's better for our civilization. We can always find a place to stop and just behold that which is around us.
Laura, you should have a PhD in wonderology. I like that. That would be perfect. right now, you just made me recall a moment about a week or two ago when my grandson, Yannick, who's 2.5, walked up to me. He had a block, one blue block out of all of the hundreds of blue blocks in this set. And he's like, look, 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 Grammy, look. I was like, well, it's a block. And I almost did that dismissive thing. It's just a block. Yay. And then I looked at it with him. Now, I can't see too well, so I'm still not quite sure what he thought was so fascinating about it. But for him, he had zeroed in on this itty bitty thing in this big, huge world. And what you were just saying made me think of that, stopping and just zoning out or zoning in, because that can create wonder in our lives in so many ways. To your point, sitting on that park bench.
Or like somebody at my book launch in New York City, there was a woman in the front row and she was crying when I was reading from the book.
Aww.
And hers was the first hand to shoot up during the Q&A. And she said, I'm crying because I'm a mother of a little boy. I'm a single mother. I have another one on the way. I have, full-time job, and my kid is asking me questions all the time. And I'm constantly saying, I don't have time to answer. We need to get you to school. We need to get you to daycare, et cetera. And so as a group, it was so cool, Desiree. As a group, and there were 150 people there, we came up with an idea. So maybe this would help with the blue block and the grandchild. What if we said to the little ones in our lives, I hear your question. Let's write it down someplace. If we're driving, that's not a great idea, but maybe, you could take a note or something. But have like a journal for your wonder, for especially for little ones, and then say, maybe right now isn't a great time. Maybe I don't have the answer, but let's make time later on in the day, like at the end of the day, to return to that question and see where we can get together. Let's abide by it. Let's behold it. Let's honor it. And as the amazing mystic poet Rainer Maria Rilke said, love the questions themselves. So it's not necessarily about the answers. It's about being in the question. That's something that children really, I think that when we ask, what makes a rainbow when we're little, I don't know if we really want the answer as much as we just want to be in the wonder of it, the questioning of it, and engaging somebody in the question itself and loving it.
I love that idea of journaling it and going back, because that also integrates this reflective moment, this putting something, kind of storing it, whether you are actually writing it down or just remembering it for later and returning to it. That in and of itself is a real powerful way to look at it, and a wonderful exercise for the little ones. And you're talking about the single mom, but this sense of finding wonder, this experience is universal, and wonder, as you point out, drives empathy. Can you talk about that a little bit for us?
Yeah, this is probably the most important point of the whole book. It took me about 9 years, almost 10, to write this book. I'm always writing lots of books at the same time, and then it's like the one that comes after me that won't let me go, and this is the one that wouldn't let me go. And I think that's why, because without wonder, we don't have empathy. And again, without empathy, we don't have a civilization. Because especially if we aren't curious about what makes you tick, especially if you're different from who I am, it doesn't mean that I have to agree with you, but I have to at least wonder, how is it that you think this way, especially if it's so different from how I think? Without that, how are we to live? It simply is, it's critical to our civilization. And so that's been the point that people have really been wanting to dig into in the Q&As across the country. What have we done with our empathy? Because we're so nose in the screen and we forget to wonder about our differences. We need to really ask. I've been on lots of airplanes recently, and I'm one of those people that puts on the headphones and I don't want to talk, but I've been an airplane talker because it's a fascinating field study. As a writer, and as all of us really, I feel, should be, but as a writer specifically, I'm a student of the human being. How can I be a student? How can I capture human beings, whether in fiction or nonfiction or self-help, if I'm not wondering, if I'm not asking, if I'm not engaging in people and people's stories, from the front desk of the hotel room to the person sitting next to me at the restaurant? And I know I'm talking about airports a lot, but I've just been in lots of airports. But it's been a fantastic case study in how people are not communicating. Everyone's got their nose in the screen, but not the kids. The kids are running around playing with each other.
Absolutely. And I tend to encourage parents not to necessarily give the kids a screen, especially at a little age too. That's an easy way out. Also we've all seen the lunches with a family, and they've got the little ones and all of them are on their device. They're all together, but they're so separated. I'm curious because, yeah, the screens, they take up our time and then our lives. To your point earlier, we're hustling and unexpected things happen across the board to everyone. Nobody is immune from it. Everybody is on their own path and journey with those unexpected turns. And I know you have unexpected successes, and you've also had some unexpected downers too, divorce. And I'll let you talk a little bit, Laura, about how your own unexpected life situations have impacted you.
So the book is in 4 parts. And the first part is all about really tracking your wonder throughout your life. And so the book has a call to action at the end of each chapter. So it's a story forward book. It's memoir forward, kind of like I'll go first, and then at the end of each chapter there's a call to action that's called Your Wild Why. And it's about using your pen to have a new awareness, or just having a different kind of mindset throughout the day, tuning into your inner critic, which is the number one. Like, most of us wouldn't speak to our worst enemies the way that we speak to ourselves in our own minds. So the book tracks at the beginning, in the first part, kind of where we have our wonder and then where it's challenged. And then in the second part, it goes deep into the challenges. The third part goes deep into how it's almost killed. I don't believe wonder really can be killed, however. And then the fourth part is wonder found, which reads like a travelogue, really, because I believe deeply in getting outside of your comfort zone, at least, well, every day, but at least once a year, to really commit to going someplace very different from where you live, regardless of what's in your piggy bank. Maybe it's across town, maybe you go camping and throw up a tent someplace in the woods. But the third part of the book is where it really was challenged. The wonder was really, really challenged. And so that part of the book was really excruciating to write, because I had to relive a lot of really difficult stuff. But it also helped me to tune into the truth that wonder really can't be taken away. And there's always some humor to find. There's a poet that I love named Emma Mellon, and she lives outside of Philadelphia. And in one of her poems, there's a line: allow yourself to be spelled differently. Allow yourself to be spelled differently. And that's something that I take to heart, because you can do that wherever you are. Allow yourself to be spelled differently. It's a challenge, but it's also playful and kind. And why do we think we have to be so mean to ourselves? I have learned that inner critic, which I call the inner critter, because why not be playful with her, is really mean when she's really scared. And so I've learned how to treat her like a scared child who's having like a night terror, and thrashing around in the middle of the night. I wouldn't kick my kid out of the room if she was having a night terror. I'd say, sweetheart, you're really scared. Let's put you down. Let's get you back to bed. I'll sit here, rub your back until you fall asleep. And guess what? She calms down. And that's what I'm asking the reader to do, to tune in to our inner terrorism that is in the prime real estate, the sacred space of our minds, and learn how to be kind to ourselves, especially when we're being really mean, and to consider the idea, if not the fact, that we're probably really scared, and to treat ourselves like a scared child. And the more I work with that, and it doesn't begin with, oh, I'm going to be kind to myself right now. Instead, it's tune in when you're being really, really scared and mean to yourself. And usually you can feel it in your body. Is your body language, arms crossed, legs crossed? Are you holding your breath? Are your shoulders up to your ears? Usually you can check into what's going on in your mind, and you'll find that you're being really cruel to yourself. So why not be kind to yourself?
Laura, I think my inner critter is a honey badger. Thank you for that. As you're talking, you bring in the physicality of it to it, just relaxing and letting go, uncrossing the legs. You can't see them down there, but I did uncross them while you were saying that. That's really a great way to look at it. I do want to get into the travel log stuff and your travels. First, just a note, I would like to commend you for writing a memoir that flips it around at every opportunity to be for the reader. From somebody who has talked to a lot of authors, and memoirs, stories of our lives are just that, stories of our lives. But when we're flipping it and connecting with others, we create something within our own lives that is so much more. So I just wanted to make a note on what a beautiful way and methodology of structuring your memoir. And I would encourage people who are like, I don't read memoirs, I don't want to read about somebody else's life. This is going to be life-changing for your life. And I would like to talk a little bit about just some of the places that you've gone, because we've teased it now a little bit. You live in the woods of Montana, but you've also been to Morocco and hill towns in Mexico, Tuscany, ancient stone circles in Ireland. Can you talk a little bit about your travels and how that weaves into your whole sense of wonder and this book?
Well, it goes back to that allow yourself to be spelled differently. I try to go someplace very different from where I live. In fact, I think that's probably, I've never said this before, but probably why I live in Montana, because I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I've spent a lot of time on the East Coast, lived in Seattle in the 90s, which was really fun. And but I've lived in Montana for 3 decades, and it constantly has me on my knees with humility, curiosity, but most of all, wonder. And so I try to take that on the road, because you can even get used to a place that is so full of wonder and so outside your comfort zone. Montana is way outside of my comfort zone every single day, because, I mean, it's grizzly bear territory, I mean, we are on the food chain there. I mean, just the migration of birds this time of year coming back every year, I kind of think, really? You've come back here? Teach me why. But so I try to go someplace that's really different from where I'm comfortable. And where I'm comfortable is sitting down writing. That's truly my whole life. It's just been kind of, I love being around alone in the woods. Yes, it's true. But I really love to have my pen in my hand and a piece of paper. So I do these things called my wonder trips, and I usually lead a writing retreat in the midst of it or at the end. And so I just did one in Uruguay this last year. That's not in the book, but I try to travel with intention. So, for instance, the one that you mentioned in Ireland, I traveled to Ireland to be in the midst of the stone structures there. So, like, lots of people have seen, Outlander, and I believe that was actually in Scotland. But I traveled around Ireland just being in the midst of these stone structures, and I mean, and boy, you can be full of wonder in those stone structures, but probably will never have the total answer. And that's why I went there. So I try to find places where I'm going to get lost intentionally. A great place to do that is in the Medinas in Morocco, in the different towns, because you're going to get lost. You're just going to get lost. So it's a true example of being in the moment and being in the journey and not trying to get from point A to point B. Even with a maze, you kind of know that you're going to find eventually the exit point. But in those labyrinths, that's what they're like to me. In those Medinas, in Fez, in Morocco, also in Marrakesh, you can just get completely lost. And that's part of the beauty of it. And it teaches you and trains you to go slowly and observe all that's around you all the time. And a Google Hooji Booji, whatever you call it, app is not going to get you anywhere in the Medinas of Morocco.
I love writing retreats too. And sometimes it's enjoyable and refreshing to go off into that cabin in the woods on your own. I'm a mountain person, by the way. I find my peace in the mountains. Some people, the beach, some people, stone circles. And then some people find it with other writers too. What's the dynamic, do you think? Why does one maybe get a different sense of a creative energy between going in a group setting or going on a solo adventure?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I personally like to be by myself when I'm writing. I'll often check into a crummy hotel, like not with a nice lobby or in a nice part of town, just to get myself away from my stack of bills, my daily life especially when I'm finishing a book. I know other authors who do that, but I also know that while we write in solitude, it's born of community. And so we need to be in community in order to really have something to write about. So I started Haven Writing Retreats in 2012, and it's a good chapter and an important chapter in the book for those of us who are in reinvention. And certainly we're all going to be in reinvention at least a few times in our lives. And it's what we do with that reinvention that matters. So I thought, well, what do I know how to do? Well, I know how to write. And I know, but a lot of people, because I would hear when I would go out on the speaking circuit, again, I don't have a voice, I'm not creative, I'm stuck. And a lot of that would have to do with wanting to write a book. I've got a story, I want to share it, and then those refusals come. So I thought, what would happen if I took what I know how to do inherently? And we all have something that we know how to do. And I'm 58 now. Like by the time we get to be 58, I hope that we know at least something that we know how to do well. We know how to show up for it, and the things that we're not great at. I'm very bad at numbers. So I thought, well, how can I get people to be out in the woods of Montana and get their pen moving past the fear of exposure, past the stories that somebody told us along the way? You're not creative. We get slotted as children. You're a brain. You're a jock. You're artsy. But everything we do is an act of creation. Every thought we think, the way we express ourselves, everything around us is an act of creation and co-creation with the world around us. So I started Haven Writing Retreats. I've now worked with over 1,000 people from all over the world. They come to Montana. You're a mountain person, I'd love to have you. And I do 7 a year. And the groups have gotten smaller and smaller on purpose, because I think that if you're in a group of like 6 to 7 people, you can be in one conversation. And that conversation is sacred, because we're not talking about politics, religion, hot button subjects. We're talking about what gets in the way of self-expression and what allows the self-expression to flow. And again, that's what brought me into this realm of wondering about wonder, because when we're really, really little, like before all the stuff happens to us, when we're really little, we're not stuck. We're in the sandbox together. Hey, Desiree, can I play with your shovel? Here's mine. Let's trade for a minute. Oh, your castle is so pretty. Show me how to make that, little moat, and let's connect them so dragons can play.
I was going to say, we have to have dragons. We have
to have dragons, and they're nice dragons. And I mean, again, this seems so silly, but it's not. It's just the freedom of being in that wonderful space as children. And that's what I try to create on my writing retreats, which are serious, craft-driven writing retreats where you learn. I mean, we have a 4-hour class in the morning and a 3-hour workshop in the evening, and free time to write in the afternoon, and a lot of community connection. We're talking about ideas. We're talking about creativity and how it flows and where we get in our own way when it doesn't, and how to be kind to ourselves so that we can access the truth of what we really want to, need to, have to say. And so this book is not for writers. It's for seekers. It's for anybody. However, I've got a book coming out next year that's specifically for writers. So I want to make sure people understand this book is not for writers, but it hatched because I've worked with so many people who say, I'm stuck. And I want to change that story because it's just not true. Maybe it's low tide. That's how I look at it. Like low tide, when the thoughts and the feelings aren't flowing. Okay, that's all right. Just think about it like low tide. It's like sticky and muddy and smelly, but you look down into the mud and you see a little bubble, and maybe there's a little clam or a mussel down there, and then just trust that the tide will come back in. And so honor all of it. Love all of it. Again, back to what Rilke said, love the questions themselves. They will be your guide.
Yes, they will. And your retreats sound amazing. And just circling back to what you say about us all being creative and trying to break out of that label we were given early on. I think that's what it can be, going back to that core. If you were told, let's face it, women of our age, because I'm just a couple of years behind you there, we were all told that girls couldn't math, right? Girls weren't good at math. I think Barbie even had said it at one time. Math is hard. And it was a whole controversy back 20 plus years ago. But when you start looking at it from that different perspective and saying, hey, I want to wonder about this, maybe I can do this, I think that's a real cool thing that you do with your retreats. And that's why you say we're all creative. Is that the premise of that?
Yeah. And a lot of the people who come aren't necessarily writers. They don't necessarily want to write books. Many of them simply want to connect with themselves. So it's not a self-help retreat. But let's face it, we can turn a phrase or twist a plot or have a fabulous command of the language in which we write or speak. But if we don't have our finger on the pulse of what's behind it, it'll never build the bridge to the reader or the person who's listening to us speak, because we have to use the self-expression, in my case, in these retreats, the writing, to bridge to ourselves. And so that's the ultimate work. And, again, like, you can have an incredible premise, and I've heard lots of them because I'm an editor, I'm a writer, but I'm also a teacher, editor, all of it. People come to me with these great ideas, but you're never going to get to the finish line if you don't have true wonder about the question behind your premise, the question behind your talking point. You've got to be playful with it. And so, like, I always think playful, curious, and kind. What would happen if we were kind to ourselves? Would we be suckers? Would we be foolish? I don't think so. I don't think we lose a beat. In fact, we just gain a more expansive way of living when we are kind to ourselves. And I'm not always good at it at all. I catch myself all the time. That's actually on my screensaver on my computer. Playful, curious, and kind. And whenever I see it, I notice I'm being none of those things to myself. So I get to practice what I preach. So this book, again, I'm not a wonderologist. I'm just a human being who values this concept and who tries to live by it. And it's not always easy, is it? It's not, because life asks us to produce and show up and have letters after our name. And a lot of the book is about my addiction to ambition my whole life. I really suffered from trying to be somebody. And when I finally let go of that, I just figured this out the other day on the road. Like, being yourself is actually really easy when you stop trying to be yourself. That's a pretty good quote. I should write that down.
Write that down.
Being yourself is pretty easy when you stop trying to be yourself. But this is actually in the book. Life doesn't stop, but we can stop in it. Life doesn't stop, but we can stop in it. And that stopping point, and to make room for it, not to just race to the next thing, but to actually be early for something so that we can truly be in the moment. What would that take for us to give ourselves permission to be exactly who we are and have it be easy, have there be ease and flow? And that's when I know I'm in my voice, when there's ease. Not that it's easy, but when there's ease to it. Why so difficult all the time?
I do know. Laura Munson, that's fabulous. Thank you for being on the show with us. No, you're joining us. You're on your book tour right now.
Yep. Yeah. Yet another hotel room. You wake up every day like, where am I? I'm in Dallas right now. I've never even been to Texas, so I'm gonna speak tonight in Terabang Books in Dallas, and then tomorrow, 2 days I'll be in San Antonio and I'm not sure when this is gonna go live, or maybe we're live right now. I don't know, but I will say that if you don't know Naomi Shihab Nye, the poet. Find her, Naomi Nye, Nye, Naomi Shihab Nye. Her poem, Kindness, is so beautiful. And she's going to be my conversation partner in San Antonio. So I'm so excited to meet her. Go find the nice people. Why do we have to find the mean people? Find nice people like Desiree.
And you, likewise, Laura. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing with us. Your book is amazing. Can you, before we tap out and let you go to your adventure this evening, can you give folks the information they need to find you, your website, your social media, information about your retreats? Where can they go and what can they do?
Oh, thanks for asking, and thanks for that beautiful chalk drawing behind. I want that on my wall at home. Um, LauraMunson.com, LauraMunson, LauraMunson.com. You can find all the stuff over there. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Substack, Wonderings with Laura Munson, and I love to go on Substack because while I've been published in lots of, the New York Times and O Magazine and all of that stuff, I love Substack because I can write for as long as I want. I can write a 3,000 word essay and push publish, and there it is. And
no one's editing you saying it needs to be 1,500 words. How dare you?
I know, forget it, man. So, well, and I am published, like professionally as well, but I love Substack because it's for real writers and real readers too. But Instagram, I also love images. So Facebook, all the usuals, but I mostly show up on Instagram and Substack.
Excellent. Laura, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciated every moment of being with you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone for being with us as well on the Books That Make You show. You can find us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com, where you can discover more amazing authors and books like we have right here with Laura. You can sign up for the Webby award-winning Books That Make You newsletter. Make sure you check out the Book Fest. Books That Make You is a proud presenting sponsor of the Book Fest every season in the spring and in the fall. And you can find us. We are also all over the place, Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, my friends. Join us on TikTok. And until next time, please, whatever you do, enjoy all of the books that make you who you are.
Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show, discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are.